All year we've been talking about the various bills that mainly Republicans are passing to make it more difficult for people in a number of different states to vote. And there are a lot of them, more than you might think. But there's also efforts to increase access to voting. Now, these things, of course, do not cancel out or anything like that. But I want to take a broad look at what's going on. And the Washington Post, who I'm going to criticize in just a little bit, has done a good job, at least in their visualizations of this. So if you take a look here, you're gonna see where voting laws have been made more accessible in green, more restrictive in red, or a combination of both. And it's interesting. It's like, it's exactly what you'd expect. The blue states have green. The red states have, I'm gonna say, what is that? An auburn, a burnt sienna, perhaps? And some of the swing states and red states have done both. But the reason I point this out is there are states that are making it easier to vote, and that's this year. This is not in the run up to the 2020 election. So a total of 41 state laws enacted this year decreased voter access, 102 increased access, 26 were neutral, and 53 were mixed or unclear in their effects, which, by the way, is way too many laws about voting being passed in like a 6-month period. 2,600 election-related bills were introduced overall. That's a lot. But anyway, we rightly, I know, focus on those who are stripping away your ability to vote. But in some places, it's being made more accessible. That's kind of nice. But as of right now, roughly 55 million voters live in states that have tightened election laws. This includes Texas, when Governor Abbott signs the law, which is expected to either today or a little bit later on this week. 70 million live in states that made voting easier. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, Francesca.
I hate the Electoral College, and this is a good reminder of why I hate the Electoral College, because I'm like, ooh, cool, yay, North Dakota, you don't matter. Like, you don't matter. And I'm sorry, ooh, all of the East Coast, you don't matter. Are there more people over there? Yeah, but I only care about Arizona.
Where it's become more difficult, in Texas and Florida.
Where it's become more difficult.
Yeah, Texas and Florida, in theory, could go blue, but less likely now. And hey, Georgia just did briefly, and then they tightened up voting laws, making it more difficult. And there's even Iowa and all that, and we'll get to Ohio in a second. But I want to run through a bit of what was done. Arizona now requires voters who do not cast a ballot at least once every 2 years to respond to a government notice to remain on the state's popular permanent early voting list, which determines who receives mail ballots. Another new law strips power from Democratic Secretary of State Katie Hobbs and provides money for post-election recounts. So the people who oversee the elections are, if they're Republicans, being empowered, if they're Democrats, being stripped of their powers. And we're getting ready for more audits because they've done those in multiple states and nothing has been shown to have been done improperly. But why not waste more time and money if that's what the base wants? Florida now requires voters to renew mail voting applications every 2 years and submit a form of identification as part of the process. The new law also gives partisan election observers more access to the ballot counting process and dramatically curtails the use of drop boxes because they're too convenient. We gotta get rid of them. Similarly, Georgia now prohibits the unsolicited mailing of absentee ballot applications and requires voters to submit identification for their request to be approved. The new law also strips certain powers from the Secretary of State, adds restrictions on the use of ballot drop boxes, and prohibits providing food or drink to people waiting in line to vote, which is, I think, the pettiest law that has been passed in our entire lives, actually. Finally, Iowa shortened the application period for mail ballots and barred election officials from proactively sending application forms to voters. It also shortened the early voting period and voting hours on election day. You know, to fight fraud, you reduce the number of hours you can vote on the day where you can vote. For some reason. Duh. Anyway, so we're gonna get into Ohio in a second, but Francesca, thoughts?
This is
impression, emotions. I don't know. What do you got?
I mean, here's the thing. We need to abolish the filibuster and pass the For the People Act, for the love of God. Like, states' rights, yeah, I guess. but no. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to voting, when it comes to democracy, when it comes to electing the next president, when it comes to the fact that we still have the electoral college and our entire hopes and dreams rest on, a few sheep in the prairies of, I don't know, Arizona doesn't have prairies, but you know what I'm saying? Just a few agave plants who probably have voting rights there at this point. I am so desperately worried that we need to actually enshrine this, just like we need to enshrine abortion rights and reproductive rights into law. We need to make sure that you cannot pass and create these laws, right? And thanks to the Supreme Court gutting the Civil Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, which protected at least southern states from having their voting rights rescinded and shortened and trampled. This has been the plan. The right has had a plan. They've had a plan to overturn Roe v. Wade. They've had a plan to overturn voting rights. They know that it is about minority rule, and they know exactly who are the people who are not gonna get, let's say, the notice every 2 years. Renters who move often, who cannot afford where they're living in these crazy gentrified areas. What about people who, let's say you stop voting at 5 o'clock, right? What about people who work till 9? What about people who work till 7? What about people who have long commutes? They know it is workers, it is people of color, it is young people, it is people who are more precarious economically, who this more disproportionately affects. And that is the plan, and it's so bald-faced. And I just wish we had Democrats in the White House who took this seriously.
Yeah, everything you said was 100% right. And they're doing it, and they're doing it all over, and we know that. And so we're good. We understand the right wing on this. They're bringing it to Ohio. It's really bad. I'm not even gonna read the graphics. It's the same thing. It's just really bad, and it makes it a lot harder for people to vote, the sort of people that you talk about. But what?
Say it in a spooky voice, though. If you say something sad, just say it in a
anyway. But now it's on the Democrats. Will they do anything? They're not. Months and months have passed. They didn't start doing this in July. They did it instantly, as soon as the new year came. And the Democrats haven't done anything. And as of right now, they won't. You're not gonna get one Republican senator to sign on for the People Act. I don't even know that you get 50 Democrats to sign on to it because of people like Manchin and Sinema. And so they're going to allow it. The right to vote is being stripped away. The ability to compete in this ridiculous circus of the Electoral College is being manipulated even worse than it already was. And the Democrats are allowing it to happen. Screwing over the people who turned out in record numbers last year to put them in office. There is a different path. They could get rid of the filibuster, pass something like the People Act, start actually passing legislation. And I know what the response always is, but then the Republicans can do anything with whatever they want when they get in office. Well, let's see if they get in office after the Democrats actually do something, actually deliver. Why would the people vote for the Republicans if the Democrats were actually solving their problems? Setting aside, of course, that the Republicans already do whatever they want with the filibuster intact. So incredibly frustrating. It's coming to Ohio. There's gonna be dozens more bills like this just this year alone. They'll be passed and in effect in time for the midterm elections, manipulating the results of those elections, making it even more likely that the Republicans will take control of the House and the Senate, manipulating the outcome of the 2024 election as well, and making it far easier to have, if they want, audits and the attempts to decertify and all of that. We'll be covering it. You'll be hanging out and we'll be broadcasting as all this is going on, and we'll know that years earlier, we were ready for it.
We'll be on the streets and we will be fighting this tooth and nail, and we'll be making them care. Look, the window in this it feels like the window on climate change, John. And I know that is something we deeply care about, and everyone does. But the window is so small. It is such BS to say, oh, well, when the shoe is on the other foot, it won't be anymore. Because they've rigged the entire system so the shoe will never be on the other foot. So they will always win. So how dare you come out with that BS argument that like, oh, well, when they're in power, they're always gonna be in power. This is our last chance to not skew even the Democratic playing field. This is the last chance to save democracy. This is not like a, I don't know, we're not playing like volleyball here, yo. The ball's never coming back.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.